Hi, welcome to this week's Pillar Guidance for the ORM Arena. I'm Tavish Cardiff, one of the co-founders, and it is Values and Ideals Week, which means we have hit the halfway mark of the practice. As always, you can start at any time. Every single pillar is its own entity, its own relationship, so start where you find us. Values and Ideals Week is really about number one, knowing the difference. What we actually spend our time on is what we're going to call values, at least right at first when we're figuring it out. At some point, when we're more aware of how we spend our time, we're going to try to align our time to what we're saying is important to us, values. But the ideal picture is something that we're always going to keep in mind, even though we're being realistic about what's possible. And I think this is where values and ideals get confused. The connections that we make between those two are subtle, but they also have so much to do with timing. There are certain ideals that we hold maybe for the world or for humanity or for our employer or country or community, and we want everybody to operate within those things, or we want it to be that way all the time. And what we really find is that we need to hold that, but also become realistic about what's possible. So in that case, we're looking at what our values are, and we're trying as hard as we can to meet a value system. But if we're trying to meet an ideal system, we've messed up from the beginning. Right before I started recording this, I don't usually share this, but this is my current values list. And I'll leave it up there just for a second so you get a sense of, kind of what I'm focused on. As I go through this next week or even the next month until the next cycle of values and ideals, I am going to add things to this list. I'm going to, I probably won't take anything away unless I finish it. Yeah, a couple things on there I might finish. But in general, I am weighing this list. What's the priority today? What's more important today? And by keeping my relationship and family at the top, by keeping my home at the top, I keep my environment and my close personal space clear enough to be able to do all the other things that I want to do. I think we find that when we don't have a clear space, we tend to fire off in a bunch of different directions and not be very clear about what's important to us. So even though what's important to us is a set thing, what's important to our energy in a day is a different thing. And a lot of times that number one value on my list is going to get compromised by something else, but I'm going to be aware that I'm doing it. And when I'm aware that I'm doing it, I'm acknowledging the thing that isn't getting the energy or attention that it needs so that it's okay while I'm not giving that energy and attention. And I think part of the connection for values and ideals, part of what has us struggling with which thing has the right of way or even the difference of what they are, is this need to constantly defend ourselves and this need to parse out words versus understanding conceptually what matters. And concepts, as well as words, are very important because I think we get caught up in words, and a word might mean something to us that means something different to someone else. And we really need to make sure that we are in the same space conceptually so that we continue to communicate with purpose and really representing ourselves. I want to just put out there as a challenge for this week to notice how many times you hold an ideal idea or hope or desire around something that maybe that isn't fair to do that. And I think we all do it in certain areas of our lives, but notice where you do. And once we notice that, it becomes a lot easier to, take that pause and give the right of way for something to not be the way that we want it to. For me in my life, my home has been a big one. I like for everything to be in its place and clean and ready for, a showing, but I'm not selling my house. But that's not happening. No one in my house wants that except for me. I'm going to lose. That's not going to happen. What I need to realize is that I am wanting an ideal, and in my wanting or desire for that ideal, I am missing the joy and the magic and the creative space of living. And so when I walk into a room now and see it messy, if I can lean into some of the things that make life more rich and valuable and important, I can relax on some of my ideals, recognize that they're my own desire, and that other people maybe have an entirely different set of what is important to them, even though I'm really trying to steer them towards mine. So if we're each walking around with a values list and we're aware of what ideals we hold, we're going to be a lot better prepared to have conversations and communication about what that looks like in our household or in our job or in our laws, in our just the way our communities operate. And right now we're in a period of tearing things apart so much. If we could all get very clear about where our values are, then we sit in a space of putting our energy creatively where it naturally would go because it's what is important to us. And then we stop worrying about other people putting their energy towards something that is scary or fearful to us. We can't affect what another person's doing with their creativity much, but we can affect the way we put things into the world, the way that we hold our expectations, the way that we hold our beliefs. And in the ideal playground, which is where I like to take all of the thoughts and feelings that there's nothing I can do about, to imagine the best for them. And it's really the alternate world of living in fear and, the people that just run through fear-based scenarios or worst case scenario or what's the worst that can happen, just set themselves up to be generally agitated. If we take that same energy and just imagine the best, imagine an outcome that's so amazing and cool, it probably won't happen. But if you spend the time that you would have spent worrying in creative imagination, you're going to feel better, your environment's going to feel better, and everyone around you is going to feel better. Get to know yourself, get to know what's important to you, because next week we will be right back here talking about conflict and what happens when what you want comes up against what someone else wants, or you have multiple things that you want and you got to choose one. This is where being very clear with your values and ideals is going to help you, benefit you, and make it easy, dare I say fun, to move through conflict to the other end where we have grown and created new spaces for whatever comes next. I will see you next week. Have a great one.